day, readers and viewers of Embassy Direct, and welcome to our 10th anniversary series of interviews. The Lebanon. What do I know about the Lebanon? Well, I was lucky enough to travel to the Lebanon, to NDU, as part of a film festival. It was a university film festival, and I was treated with such amazing hospitality, and they took me all over the place and showed me wonderful sights. Up in the mountains, you can ski. Down in the city, you can sunbathe, and on the same day. So I have the great honor of introducing you today to the Lebanese ambassador, His Excellency Kabalan Frangieh. Welcome to Embassy Direct Talk, and it's fantastic to have you here. Now, I hear you've been here for in your mission for like 5 years. How's that been? Tell me about your experiences in the last 5 years. Have you enjoyed it? What do you think of South Africa? Tell me, please. I'd love to know.
First, thank you very much, Hakeem, for hosting me, and to Embassy Direct also for hosting me and other ambassadors. It's a very good initiative, much appreciated, and for your interest in my country,
which is beautiful, by the way. Loved it.
And, you told me you went for a film festival.
I did, yeah.
So I think you've noticed that the film industry in Lebanon has been growing for a while. And we had a film lately that was shortlisted for Oscars as well, the Nadine Labaki movie, and many other movies that were going international. That's an industry that is doing a lot of progress, and we're proud of it. South Africa, you asked me.
I did ask you about South
How
Africa.
I
Let's hear
feel
your
here.
take, yeah.
I've said it before, this is the so far my favorite post. I don't think I'm the only one, the only ambassador who before leaving, I'm not leaving yet, but after spending some time here, says the same. It's a place where foreign envoys or diplomats feel different, comfortable, and some of them fall in love with the place. Others retire after stay here after retirement, and I have had good posts everywhere I went before, and this is one of them. But I would say that this is definitely top 3 of my posts, because I have been too many posts before, 6 or 7 or 8 even. South Africa is a place where you can have a little bit of everything, in my opinion. You have it all in a small perimeter, let's say. You have the Balkans, India, the Middle East, Latin America, in a small piece, or 2, 3, 4 kilometers, let's say in Western Cape with the Indian Ocean meeting the Atlantic. You feel that it's so rich, and so when it comes to nature, you have it. You have a very specific country where you don't find in other spots on the planet. And when you go to the flora, the fauna, the bush as well, you have one of the most beautiful bushes on the planet.
So you sound like you're a man that really enjoys the outdoor life. Is that, and that's what has attracted you to being in South Africa and staying?
Very much so. It's an outdoor country. You cannot stay in South Africa and love it. This is the country where you want to be outdoor. There are so many things to see. It's so diversified. But at the same time, as I mentioned, it's a bit of everything. People are amazing here. They're very warm. They're very proud of being South Africans, and it's important. They make you feel home by being proud that this is their home. So I would say this is my second home. Work-wise, professionally as well, we have very good relations with South Africa. So it was a pleasant journey for me. Of course, lots of challenges. We went through lots of challenges, whether me or everyone, during the last 5 years.
Tell me some of the challenges that you went through, whether on a personal level or diplomatic level, within South Africa in the last 5 years that you've been here, at least.
So first you have to understand how the South African people think, and this is in itself a challenge. And every diplomat who comes to a new post have to prepare himself, has to understand the mentality, has to watch dynamics of the how society is, how the politics works, how people think, and this was a challenge in itself. But this is why I wanted to come to South Africa. I was also uh, prepared for this post since quite some time, even before joining the diplomatic career, because of Mandela, because of the struggle that was here, because everyone knows, everyone has in his general culture an idea about South Africa because of the struggle, of the freedom struggle. So I'm one of the persons who chose to come here to live that experience, even 25 years or 30 years after. This is the same reason I went to India, because I was impressed by Gandhi's experience. My first post was there. And uh, it doesn't mean I go exclusively because of these things, because I went to Brazil without having that experience in mind. But South Africa is a landmark in this, and I think it's a lesson to humanity. So the challenge for me at the beginning was to understand how what did the South African do with this to start with, and how the transition happened, the reconciliation process, which is very important for us. And I think we have to learn. Lebanon has a lot to learn from South Africa in the truth and the reconciliation process, that because we went through a civil war.
Yes, I want to just interrupt you there because, as you say, Lebanon is now went through the civil war. People were telling me when I was in Lebanon what it was like going through that civil war, and they were young people at that time. Uh, you've gone through now. Lebanon has had particular challenges in the last couple of years as well. Now, how do you see the relationship? How do you see Lebanon learning from South Africa in that sort of sense, and the challenges that
Yes. Let me just start by saying that for the people who lived the civil war, they are immune to, for any conflict to move into a new civil war. The Lebanese people. For the ones like me, because I grew up in civil war. I was born in '76, so the civil war ended in 1990. I was 14, and my generation, for us, we are immune. There is a full 3 or 4 generations that will not accept a civil war in Lebanon at any cost. There is a new generation that doesn't know what was civil war, doesn't know the values in a negative way that follow a civil war. It's a big shame. It's the worst thing, worst form of war, a civil war. People fighting themselves, same in the same houses sometimes. It's the worst form. So, but when you move on from a civil war to a new phase, there is a process that you have to follow. Even though you know that the direction that you are going to will be a direction of more stability and peace, but it matters how you go. So the means are very important, even though that you think that you're going to arrive to the same end, which is more stability. But in Lebanon, the process that South Africa took was not. We took another process. Okay, we made a more of a political process, rather than the reconciliation and truth commission that happened here. And but although it was not complete here and it was not finalized, but it's a landmark, as I mentioned. It's a very important message to humanity. Lebanon is a message to humanity in a different way. Uh, it's a melting pot. You don't have any majority in Lebanon. Nigeria has, for example, a majority. South Africa has a majority. In Lebanon, you don't. You don't, we are divided into many communities, religious communities, and there is no majority. Everyone was coming to those mountains that form Mount Lebanon to hide. So it's a country of minorities. Whether those groups of Muslims, those group of Christians, we have 13 groups of Christians in Lebanon, Most of them came to I mean, I'm talking thousands of years ago, 1,000 or 1,500 years ago, or even more or less, depends on which one, came to hide because the armies couldn't get into those valleys and mountains and the small grottas inside. So the priests and the religious people and the minorities used to come, all of them to hide, since you don't have many mountains in the area. The only place where you have mountains other than Lebanon is a little bit in Syria, and that's it. Everything else is flat. And this is not the story only of Lebanon, but Lebanon embodies it. So it's a message of uh, living together. Okay, it's a message of finding a way with your differences to live together as humans, and we have succeeded in many ways to prove to everyone that no matter what differences you have, because religious differences are more serious than other types of differences, than ethnic differences, than nationalistic differences, than sometimes the color of the skin. Because when you have a religion, it's difficult sometimes. The room is the margin, the rooms for discussions are less than other kind of differences. I mean, Europe went into a nationalistic war and the Second World War, and in 5 years it was almost over. And they had the Rome Accord, and then they had many other accords, the Germans and the French. When you have a religious war, like also in Europe, it's a 100 years war. So those kind of differences, no country embodies this message more than Lebanon, of origins meeting in a small spot and finding a way to live together and move forward.
Mm. So, I mean, just moving on from that, then, just in terms of what South Africa and Lebanon can do in terms of their economies and investment and inward investment in South Africa, outward investment from South Africa to Lebanon to help stabilize and to help promote.
Yeah. First, just to move on and answer you, South Africa has been very supportive to Lebanon everywhere since the end of apartheid. We have very good relations. We are like-minded in our foreign policy in many ways. South Africa has supported Lebanon in the Security Council throughout the times, and Lebanon supports South Africa in lots of its, let's say, in lots of elections in the international forums and in the UN and other type of forums. So South Africa has been, I think, top three in the most importing countries from Lebanon. During the last decade, during the last 10 years, from 2011 to be more precise, 11 years now, South Africa, in total, in aggregate, is the number one importer from Lebanon. Number one importer from Lebanon, even though we are not neighbors.
So, what sort of things does
It was especially jewelry and plated gold, and we reached at some point. South Africa was 1/4 or to 1/5 of our imports to the world in 2012. 2016 again, it was around 1/5 of the whole Lebanese exports to the world. So South Africa is number one importing country from Lebanon, but our exports. This is how South Africa was important. Our trade during COVID went down a bit, and with the shipping crisis, it went down now. Um, it went down drastically because of the issues that the world is living now, with the recession at the door, or already happened, the world recession, and the problem of shipping. So we went down drastically now to numbers which we are not happy with.
So is there a chamber of commerce or something like that that can help with people from South Africa? Is there a Lebanese chamber of commerce in South Africa that people can go to, and and what about South African exports into Lebanon.
Yes, the South African exports into Lebanon were not as much as the Lebanese exports to South Africa, but now are higher and have been higher for the last, I think, 5 years probably. So we divide the decade. The first 5 years, Lebanon was much higher, and now South Africa is picking up. Um, but let me mention the Chamber of Commerce that the embassy established here, which is now independent from the embassy. The embassy is only honorary in it. It's called SALCOC, Southern African Lebanese Chamber of Commerce. As you know, which is a very important pillar of our relations with South Africa, is the presence of a very important Lebanese community in South Africa. We've got 40,000 Lebanese person living here, and they are South African Lebanese, and they have been here for more than 130 years now, 140 years in some cases. We are the fifth generation now of Lebanese here. And mostly they are from the areas you visited when you went to Lebanon,
Right,
from the north
right.
of Lebanon.
Okay.
70-80% are from the north, and around 10% to 20% from the south. And they are very much part of the South African community and society and life. But they have also, I mean, a very good connection with Lebanon. Those people and the other Lebanese in Africa in general, the embassy covers 12 countries, by the way. So that Chamber of Commerce is also for the 12 countries, the SADC countries,
SADC
with the
countries,
exception
okay.
of Congo and Seychelles
Okay.
and and Tanzania. So Angola and below, all these 12 countries are under the embassy jurisdiction. And this Chamber of Commerce is as well. So we are creating now Chamber of Commerce in each country that follow the Southern African one, which is here. And it's led by Azar Jammeh, who is a famous economist in South Africa. He's a South African Lebanese. And other Lebanese businessmen or South African businessmen from Lebanese origin. And they are very active. And this is where, this is the place to go if you want to do business in Lebanon or for Lebanese investors in South Africa. They go to SALCOC.
So one of my favorite Lebanese people is Khalil Gibran, the poet philosopher. And I was lucky enough to go to his, I think it was his birthplace. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Sharri.
Mshari, that's it.
Yeah, it's where most of the Lebanese that live in South Africa are from this area, from
I
his
wonder why
town.
that is. Then are they all philosophers? Do they have a sort of poetical, philosophical take on life here in South Africa? The Lebanese that live here, do you think?
Um,
Be from his area.
I mean, he's a very exceptional person, but he is definitely an inspiration for Lebanese people, definitely, and very important for them. Not because he's known, but because of his message uh, that is very spiritual and very powerful, very pure. His life as well. He suffered a lot in his life. He was a painter too.
Yeah,
His
yes, I've seen
paintings
some
are
of those
amazing.
paintings. Yeah.
But he's on the positive side of things. If you wanna just
Yeah, no,
simplify,
yes, yeah, of course.
William Blake, for example, he
Exactly.
was influenced by William Blake, but William Blake is a little bit more like you have to go through through your black side, not black, so your dark side. Sorry, but so it's
Black,
kind.
I mean,
Yeah, no, I don't like those. I read Martin Luther King, and
right,
I
right.
love the guy.
Well, I was going to say,
I
so the other leads me on. Who is your favorite? I mean, South African in that sort of sense. Is there a comparable South African writer, philosopher, poet, or apart from Nelson Mandela that you would feel?
I've read mostly political books in South Africa. I mean, this is more my interest. I would say Ahmad Katarada, for example, his life is very inspiring for me. His role in the freedom struggle is very important, as important as Nelson Mandela. I went to his let's say museum, or remembering to his foundation base headquarters, and I was so impressed by his life and his role as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. I look forward to sort of seeing Lebanese people come in droves to South Africa and experiencing the beauty of this country. And thank you, Kabalan, very much, Your Excellency, for coming and chatting. Thank you very much. Bless you. Thank you. Um, again, a great interview with His Excellency Kabalan Frangieh. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Great. And proudly brought to you by Outsurance. Thank you.